it used to drive me insane. It still does a little bit like at parents' evening where they'll be like, oh yeah, and they got such and such a grade and that puts them at wherever they are in their class. And I'm like, I really don't give a shit where they are in their class. Like, I'm not bothered. Are they turning up and doing what they can do? Yes or no?
Welcome to the Fit Dads podcast. I'm Brad Thompson. The man over there is Ryan Dutton, and we're joined by the amazing Becky Farrar. How are you, Becky?
I'm good, thank you. Right. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for coming in. We met at Luke Staton's Inspire 2026 event. We saw you on stage talking all about fear, and you really captivated the entire audience and me and Ryan about your message, and I suppose just the background you've got as well, which we'll dive into today with your blessing, of course.
Obviously, that's fine.
So I've written down 5 words here, Becky, which is performer, teacher, parent, and identity coach.
Ooh, that's really accurate. Yeah, I like all of this.
Where would you like to start?
Anywhere.
Go
for it.
Let's start from the beginning. Let's go right back to where it all started. Dancing, I believe.
Dancing.
Talk us through that.
So, my mum, I mean, it still becomes like a laugh now that she's like, yeah, it was £1 for half an hour on a Saturday morning. And I sent you off to your ballet and tap class 9 till 9:30. I was like 4 years old. And, I mean, I don't obviously remember starting that young, but I do know that it was literally my whole entire life for like such a long time. It was quite apparent, quite young, that I'd got quite a natural ability for it. But I think was quite, how do I explain it, like a bit naive to that in a way, like as well. Like I never felt like I was better than anybody else or anything like that.
Was that lack of confidence maybe?
I'm not really sure it was. I think I've just always been someone that likes to stay in my own lane, likes to just focus on kind of me and doing me. I remember getting moved up to a group a few years, like to the group that was older than me, younger. And at that point, that's when I started to feel like a little bit of like a gap, perhaps. Like I was 2 years younger than like the youngest one sort of in that. But I still just like rocked up and like got on with it. Like I was there all the time. Never ever thought about not going. Did the exams and the competitions, and I was always someone that just wanted to do like the best that I could. And I genuinely don't know at what point it came where I was like, I just want to dance. Like, and I had an interesting conversation actually like last summer with my stepdad, who was like, all you wanted to do was dance. And I don't really remember that much. It's really strange how I remember going a lot, but I don't remember a significant moment that was like, that's what I want to do. But I do remember thinking, I want to go to dance college, like, and then thinking about like doing West End, and like I was like, how awesome would this be if this was like my job to do like all of the time?
I think we all have that moment as a kid, don't we, where we love something so much and we're like, I would love to do this forever. Football for me was the main thing. I think it all revolves around sports for a lot of kids, isn't it? Like things you enjoy doing.
I just loved it. Yeah. I just loved it. And now, like, even when I think back to like me and my sister, like we had a garage that we'd like play in. And we'd play like dance exams and dance competitions, and we'd make up our own stuff. And even when you're doing stuff outside of that, and I've just had a sort of a visual now. And I was at secondary school because it was a house that I was at secondary school, and I really wanted to get it's called an aerial now, but at the time it was just like non-handed cartwheel, and I was just out in the garden doing it again and again and again and again and again and again. And I just I really wanted to be able to do it. Like I've always had that quite determined nature sort of in me. But yeah, I don't know at what point exactly I remember. Maybe it was just that I was like, well, I'll just do something that I enjoy, like, rather than the academic side. And I remember being absolutely over the moon when I got into like dance college. Like I still remember to this day, like opening the letter, being like ridiculously excited about it. And I was like, oh my God, I've got into dance college. And then, my mum made me do my A-levels. I wasn't able to. She won't let me go at 16. It's like, you can go at 18. I think that's like, again, I was going to say like a typical parent thing, which is like, you need a backup plan. Like, can't go at 16, get your A-levels first. So I did. And I was literally there 3 months and then just quit.
Oh, so you didn't follow the A levels through. Just thought I need to
The
go.
A levels I did, the dance college I didn't.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So you got 3 months into the dance college.
3
The
months
thing-
into dance
The
college.
one thing that you were looking forward to,
Yeah.
excited for.
Yeah.
What happened at 3 months in? Why did you want to quit?
Because I didn't feel good enough to be there.
Really?
That is literally it in a sentence.
Was it so much of a jump up in terms of ability?
Definitely. I think one of the things, like, there's so much that you look back on now as an adult or what I've done, like, in my job. So I was one of the stronger ones within the environment where I was. So I'd never really had other people around me to, like, look up to in a certain way. They were, like, older than me, but not necessarily kind of like my peers.
Yeah.
I'd never really been challenged massively. Well, if you've never had to overcome challenge, you don't know how to deal with challenge. But then now, from what I know from an identity perspective, is that ultimately, like, it's never about potential, capability, possibility, desire. It's about whether we're a version of ourselves that can hold the next level. And when our identity is, like, expanding, this is when comparison comes in. Like, we start looking at other people, like, the self-doubt kind of comes. But I didn't know that at the time. So this comparison and this self-doubt, like, every day it was like, you're not good enough to be here. I'd look at the people and be like, they are so much better than me. Like, I felt so inferior. But I'd never been taught how to use my mindset in a way of going, but that's okay because I can learn from them. That's okay because I can grow by being here. My literally was just like, I've never experienced this before. I cannot cope with this. I need to leave.
Wow. So you left?
Yeah.
Did you?
I mean, the principal came and had a word with me, actually, and sort of came and said, I'd like you to reconsider. Like, we feel like you've got a lot to give. And I was like, it just doesn't feel like for me. And I'll always, even now, but definitely even then as well, like, I'll always go with how I feel. Like, my body is one of, like, the biggest things that I will trust. Because I think sometimes there can be a disconnect between our body and our brain. But my body was just so uncomfortable, like, in that situation, because it just couldn't deal with the environment that it needed me to stretch into. I just couldn't handle it.
Was it just the fact that there was a big jump up in ability, or was there other factors? Was there certain personalities there that you didn't like? What was it? I mean, just to have this whole dream of doing the one thing that you want to do, and then it being like, I don't want to do this anymore.
So yeah, the teaching, some of the teaching I struggled with.
Okay.
Was it? Okay.
Some of the because it can be brutal.
Yeah.
Like, and again,
what year was this? Just
so I
to
was
get just some
18.
context.
So I will have been 18 in the August and I started in the September.
Okay.
And in terms of year, it will have been 2003.
Okay. So maybe not as progressive in the thinking towards teaching as they are nowadays.
Did you have to move away at that point as well? I'm guessing.
No, I was quite lucky actually. Okay. So I picked a college where I could go for part of the week and then kind of come home. And that was one of the appeals because I'm quite a home bird. But yeah.
It's funny actually, I had exactly the same outfit, exactly the same thing. And when I was about a bit younger than you, maybe I think I was about 13, 14, I had a trial at Manchester City and I was a big fish in a small pond in my team, my league, and I went to have a trial there and you were the best in the world. Players from all over the world were at this academy. Current England players were in that kind of dressing room, and I had that same thing where I left there thinking, I'll never be as good as I thought I was going to be. And it's a shell-shocking moment, and also one of the best moments I think you can go through because it reshapes your thinking. You kind of, in a weird way, think, there's a lot of regret to start with. Could I have done better? Could I have done things differently? But it shapes you in a way like, you know what, I'm just going to be the best I can be. And I think that sounds like something maybe you're moving into next.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's on the wall in the studio that I have now. Like, I became a teacher and it's like, be the best version of you. And I think I don't regret my decision. I think everything happens for a reason. And when they actually sort of like tried to sort of convince me to stay or to, I don't know, speak to me, and I was like, no, like, this is not for me. Like I said, like, my body was just like, no, I have to, this is not right. And there were a few people that were like, you could be making like a really wrong decision here. And I was like, I could be, but I've got to go with how I feel. But I was like, I'm going to go and teach. And And again, I can't kind of go, oh, I'm going to quit this. Oh, but I'll turn it into teaching like instead. It was, right, I'm going to teach because I'm not ready to give up the dance. So I wasn't ready to kind of stop doing something that I thought was going to kind of turn into a career. And that's kind of what I did.
Wow. That was 18 years old. You decided, I'm going to go and teach.
Yeah, so I got some experience. I was really fortunate, actually, that the guy that I was seeing at the time, his auntie had a dance studio. So I did some teaching kind of there, and I just really liked it. I really liked it, really enjoyed it. And then things just kind of took, and at 19, I set up my own classes.
Wow.
And at the time, I don't remember thinking, oh, I'm going to set up this, really big dance school and it's going to do this. I like to have my own things. Do you know? I was like, I'll just take ownership of like this little bit over here. And then I just spent years, like I'd worked for different people and I still had my own classes on the side. And then I ended up working at a sports company. And then at one point I went to university thinking, right, okay, then so maybe I'll do secondary school teaching instead. That lasted a year and a bit, and I was like, no, this is not for me either.
Oh wow!
Honestly, I've done a lot of pivoting.
Is it something about education? Maybe did your body think, I just don't want to be in that kind of stressful environment around education? Because it can be very stressful for people knowing that you've got exams and you have to do things a certain way. There's curriculums. You've not got that freedom to kind of do things the way you want to do.
When I quit uni, we'd done some placement, but I'm a doer, so I naturally, I know now that's like part of my human design, but I prefer learning through doing rather than sitting and kind of being told to do it in a certain way. And I think like as well, again, it would just a feeling. I was just like, this doesn't feel like it's actually for me. Like I felt like perhaps going to uni and doing teaching is because I was like, okay, I need to somehow carve a career here somewhere. And I'd not necessarily thought before I went to uni about taking my dance teaching into like a full-blown career. I was like, I'm quite happy just doing some classes. But when I was at university, it was a lady that I then did some teaching for, and she was like, you have got so much potential as a teacher. What about kind of really honing in on the dance? And I was like, all right then. So then I just left uni. But I think, again, I'm a big believer in like feelings and signs, and I mean in my early days I feel like, oh gosh, I sound like a little bit of a quitter, like moving here to here, but then I also could argue that like, but I've always been quite intuitively drawn to things, and it's like sometimes, and I believe every path that we go down gives us something that we need for the next bit or the next chapter. We don't just need the whole story. But I am glad that I didn't finish teaching, because I don't think I would still be doing it now. I have quite a lot of not great like things about schools and education and exams and stuff like that. I just don't believe in a lot of it. So I think that it was probably a blessing really, whereas doing it and eventually setting up my own stuff like meant I could do it in my own way. And even when I set up my academy, I didn't do exams because I was like, well, I don't want to teach like that. I don't want to, I use the syllabus as a framework, but I was like, I want to do it my own way. I want to bring in the things that like matter to me. So I think I've always been a little bit of a polite rebel almost, to be like, I don't like being boxed in. I love structure and routine and organisation and things like that, but I'm also quite a free spirit. Like I like to do my own thing in my own way without people telling me like I can't.
I suspect that's probably got something to do with why you felt that rejection from formal education when you went. I think when you went to the dance school, you saw that, wow, not only is it intense, not only is it challenging, but if you knew you were a good dancer, I'm sure there was some level of confidence there in your own abilities. I reckon you got there and you probably thought, this is really formal. Like, I've got to do things a certain way. I haven't got that ability to go into my garage like I do with my sister and just dance the way I want to dance. And you go to school to teach, and you're like, this is the syllabus. This is how we're going to teach it. This is the way you've got to teach going forward for the rest of your career. And you're like, I don't like this. I'm used to teaching my way. I go into my own dance classes and I can do things however I want. I reckon there's some barrier there where you hit that kind of very boxed in way of thinking education and your body rejects it. I guarantee there's probably something to that.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit like that now. Like, I don't like to be told what to do. I like to kind of figure it out on my own and have my own. And I've always said, like, even if it takes me, like, if someone could tell me, like, if I'm here, we need to go to here, like, one step forward, and someone can tell me, but I can go like all around this way on my own and still get to here. I would always choose to go this way around.
Yeah, maybe the scenic route.
Like, but I think that that's just because it now again, like I'm a massive advocate for self-trust and inner knowing and inner connection. And I think we gain so much more by listening to that for ourselves than if we are told.
I really resonate with a lot of that. And Ryan said about theories earlier, maybe suspicions, a lot of what you said about maybe the role models and some negative experiences. Like I remember thinking from a very early age, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to do that. So when I got into coaching, I remember almost flipping it on its head, thinking what would have wanted. And then the more people you work with, you sort of go, oh, actually, I'm going to have to adapt here, but not lose who I am and the way that I do things. And there's certain values there that maybe get left at the door. Did you go through that process of identifying values and that sort of stuff? Or is this a bit jumping ahead too far? Because I know we're going to get to that.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, but not necessarily in a deep way. So when I started teaching, particularly dance, all I wanted to do was think, what skills can I give these kids that I didn't have? Like what? And also from as a human perspective, not as a dancer. So again, and I still think it can kind of go on sometimes now in like some dance schools, that it's very much about creating dancers. And like, not every kid wants to be a dancer. Like some kids just want to turn up and enjoy being in the studio. So I was always like, how can I teach in a way, what can I give that supports these kids no matter, and my strapline's always been, no matter what stage they step onto, like, can they be the star of their own show, no matter what stage they step onto? So things like the things that I believe that I missed, so were what actually now are the values of the academy that I set up, which was self-belief. But then I think I had it. I just didn't have it deep enough. Like, because if I didn't have it, I wouldn't have said yes to dance college at all. Togetherness. So very much about seeing other people and being admiring other people and being inspired by other people rather than being intimidated and comparing, because that's what I did. As soon as I saw other people that were better than me, I was like, oh, they're so much better than me, instead of going, oh my God, I love what she's doing. Like, how can I do this? But this is an adult head, not an 18-year-old head. Resilience, I think, is massive, really, really massive. And that's what I didn't have, because like I've said before, when we are met with challenge, we have a choice, which the choice is that we meet it and we work forward with it and we go forward and we become more resilient, or we choose, actually, the challenge is too big right now. I'm okay staying here. And I don't think there's a right or wrong thing. Every situation can be different. Sometimes a challenge can come up and I'll go, that's a little bit too much for me right now, you know. So resilience, individuality, hugely. The dance world as well sometimes can be, everyone can kind of look the same or be the same, or there's a certain way. And I always wanted to be a space where anyone could be them and be themselves.
What's the in look at the moment? What's all the kids, what are they all pushing for?
In my space, or like the space that I established, well, ultimately I can't tell you because I've not been there for a few months, because obviously I don't actively teach now. But I wouldn't say that they were in my environment, because they all come in and they are them, and in terms of like,
Okay. Individuality. I like that.
Individuality.
I like the fact you're pushing that.
Yeah,
sure,
massively.
Kids will gravitate towards other kids and what's popular and what other people are doing.
Be the one that's different.
Yeah,
but don't be afraid to be the one that steps out. Don't be afraid to be one that starts the new path, or that sets a different way of doing it. So that's a really like big one. Then visualize success, which that's all to do with like the progression and what direction are we going in. And then enthusiasm, like I think everything, and that comes into like then effort and like energy. But I've always been like, just be enthusiastic, like with what you do. And these are all of the things, and you know, as I say, we've never done exams in the academy that I established, but in nearly every lesson, like there'll be some form of reference to these values for these children. And I've always said, I mean, now with like the deeper work that I do on identity, there's like parts in that are missing, but that's like a really good set of like, values to kind of operate by, from kids that are coming in at 2-3 years old up to like teens.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good framework.
Oh, definitely. What sort of style was your favourite when you were in like on the up and up, and then when you started teaching, is there a particular style of dance you really loved to
I've always liked two, so I really like like theatrecraft, musical theatre, jazz type of thing. I think it's because in musical theatre you get the option to kind of adopt a character. There's lots of different types of music kind of in that, and that is the subject that I was actually offered. I was nominated for a scholarship in when I was only like 11, and that was really young to be nominated for a scholarship at like that age, and that was in that subject. So I like that. But then I've always loved modern as well. That was another one that I was quite strong at, like big leaps, jumps, kicks, turns. But that's got lots of different styles. I am very much of like a cheesy, like sort of person. I didn't particularly love like the more ballet and the taps. As I got older and started teaching, I got more of a love for like the ballet. But definitely the ones where you're able to express kind of like a little bit more.
My only draw to dance ever when I was young was I used to watch WWE.
Okay.
No, I don't know where this is going.
It'll all come to fruition. I used to watch a guy called Scotty Too Hottie. Do you remember Scotty Too Hottie?
Like hip hop.
Do you know what his
style.
special move was? His special move was the worm.
It was. Yeah.
And so when I was younger, I used to, my party trick used to be the worm. I used to go to parties and bust out this little worm on the dance floor. That's the only thing I'd do.
We had 5 kids do that in the last show.
Really?
We did.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, I used to love the worm. And actually, embarrassingly, when I used to work at Meadowhall, on the interview, they had like a big group of like interviewers come down, or interviewees, shall I say, and at the end there's a big set of stairs that comes down to the main bit, and you had to walk down the stairs, and at the bottom of the stairs bust a move.
Yeah. And
I hadn't done the worm in years. I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure I've still got it in me. I was tempted to just do something quite casual, like quite discreet. Yeah, and I thought, nah, you know what, I'm going to bust out the worm, and I did it, and still had it in the locker.
Still got it.
I know, and I'm not doing it today, by the way. Before you ask.
Time. But when I see it, I will get a video of that, by the way. I mean, speaking of talking about confessions, I'm actually trained exercise to music. I don't know if I've ever told about this. Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it. You like the finding a beat, sticking to the beat. Is there any tips for any maybe aspiring dads who want to keep up with their sons and daughters for?
Well, in terms of, for me, dance in that aspect would be, it's expressive. It's like going back to that individuality, like just be you. I mean, my husband thinks he's a bit of a dancer. He's got some, really strange funky dad moves that he likes to get out, when we do things.
It's risky doing that in front
like,
of what
honestly,
a teacher
like,
in dance.
But I just think music is amazing. Like, there's so many different types of like music, and I think, when it comes to like teaching dance and doing it in a particular way, like there's so many like rules, or there's techniques, or there's this, but in terms of like that, just go with it, like just feel it, and just be, and just move, and just express, because like technically that's what dance is, like it's expressive.
I love that. And actually, Amy always takes the piss out of me because I like to sometimes bust a few moves, but I'll do it knowing that she's going to take the piss. Yeah. But it gets a laugh, and it gets Harlow up off the sofa, and we're all dancing around the living room for a second. And you're right, dance is like really, it's a super positive thing, isn't it? It makes people immediately feel better. As soon as you start getting up and dancing, and even when you're feeling a bit down and you're a bit of a Scrooge, or you're at a wedding that someone's dragged you towards, or you've been pulled off a chair when you don't want to dance, as soon as you start busting those shoulders and the arms start going, immediately you feel better. It's like an endorphin rush, isn't it? And I think that, dads just need to do, or parents in general, just need to encourage that with the kids around the house. If a song comes on and you want to, you've got to drop your ego a little bit as well, which is quite nice.
We have dancing. A sign in our kitchen that says, "In this house we dance in the kitchen." And it's like, just because, and like New Year this time, we always stay in at like New Year, and like me and my daughter, like she's 14, and we were doing like a TikTok, and it would just becomes fun. Like, just embrace the movements and songs, and so many different types of songs and music to like move to.
And TikTok's great for that, isn't it? Because it also binds different age groups. The kids want to do it, teenagers want to do it, you can draft parents into it, and it's also a little bit of fun for online, isn't it? I do like the fact that TikTok's kind of made it more almost like socially acceptable to bust out a few moves and do like choreographed little routines. You
mentioned your daughter there as well.
Yeah.
And in your email, you mentioned about your son who's off on his travels. Is that right?
So he will finish, so he's year 13 now, he's 18 next month, and he will finish college. and he doesn't know like what he wants to do next other than go travelling. And again, from like a language point of view now, like when he talks about it, because it's not booked, but like I was having a conversation with him the other week, and I was like, you know, on the scale of like 1 to 10, like how, you know, certain are you that you're going to go? And he's like, 10. And I'm just like, oh, I like this. Like the determination, the drive is already there. And he's planned where he's going to go and what he's going to do. And the day is even in our family calendar as to like when he wants to go in September, and he knows what time he's coming back and how many weeks he's going to spend at a certain place. But my mum and my stepdad are retired and they are out in Spain at the minute. And my mum was like, oh, well, you know, and if you want to come out and visit us, you know, you're more than welcome to. And it was like, yeah, okay. So he booked his own flights and went out last week. So he got dropped off in the airport, like Andrew, early in the morning, got himself off on a flight and went over to Spain, then got the train and navigated his way to like the apartment, and then had a couple of days there and then came back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that
and
his first solo trip?
Absolutely, yeah. And at 17, I was just like, that is pretty awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Nice.
I look at that and I think that feels like a job well done, like as a parent, that you like raise a human that's then comfortable enough and confident enough to be able to like take those steps.
Yeah. That's the big thing, the confidence, because a lot of kids don't have the confidence to even get on the bus and go to town, let alone jump on a flight and a train and a cab and navigate their way from the airport to wherever obviously his grandparents are staying.
So it's interesting that we talk about confidence, and we'll maybe come back to like Ollie, but I was in a coaching call with a 10-year-old that I have the other week, and one of her things that she wanted to be able to work on was being more confident. And I was like, but sweetheart, you do know that it's not a personality trait, don't you? And she was like, and I was like, it's not a personality trait. Like, confidence is going to come and go depending on what we're doing or what we're not doing. And like, I literally blew her mind with that. Because it's like, so someone that's like, say, not confident about like getting on the bus, that's only because it's a new thing. But it's like, confidence comes by doing the things that we don't yet know how to do, and we have to take the small steps to then become more confident in that. And I think there's so much people think like, oh, he's confident, she's confident, they're confident. Yeah, they may well be as a representation in that particular situation, in that particular scenario. Get me up on a stage dancing and I'm completely confident with doing that. But if it was like, oh, would you like to go and play chess against this particular, I'd be like, well, no, because I've no idea how to do it. So, you know, even like something like getting on a bus, it'd be like, but the first time, like, do it and do it with someone. Go a short amount of time. Then, like, the next time, like, go and do it on your own. Get someone to meet you at the opposite side. And it's just like the small kind of steps. Like, I'm a big fan of like slow, small, sustainable changes because that's actually how our brain helps us grow the most, and our nervous system as well. But yeah, small kind of steps with it. And then even coming back actually, so when Andrew and I came, I actually did an Instagram story about this. So Andrew and I went to pick him up from Leeds Bradford Airport on Friday night, and Andrew went, oh shit. I was like, what? And he was like, oh, he's in Liverpool. I was like, what do you mean he's in Liverpool? Anyway, it was really foggy at Leeds Bradford. They couldn't land at Leeds Bradford, so they diverted the plane to Liverpool.
Oh, wow.
But it's really strange because once upon a time that would have put me in a little bit of a tailspin. I'd have like panicked a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay. You know, we spoke to him, he was fine. But he actually said when he came back, I said, how did you react on the plane? He said, well, I just had a little bit of a laugh. He's like, I couldn't do anything about it. And I was like, that's so interesting how you can get the same situation and different people would kind of react in a different way. Because I think if I'd have been on the plane at 17, then I'd be like, well, where am I going now? How am I going to get home? Or like, and it was just like, well, a minute now, I can't do anything about it.
It's great
like,
life
just
lessons.
Got to like roll with it.
It's really good life lessons.
And that's the thing. And I said to him,
in a very controlled way as well. Like, he's going somewhere to his grandparents, people he knows. He's, you know, he's got people he can ring at any moment. He's not a million miles away from anyone at any one stage. You know, it leads to Liverpool. It's not massive. You know what I mean? What, hour, 2 hours? Yeah, 2 hours.
An hour and 5 minutes it took like to
get
exactly. But do you know as well what's like really awesome? So, you know, like if you do something, like sometimes you can inspire other people to do the same. So like my mum and my stepdad have always got a taxi, and then when they're coming home, what day? Oh, it's today actually. They're coming home today. And it was like, we're going to get the train. Ollie's inspired us to get on the train and go to the airport. And I was like, that's just, I know it's a really like small everyday example, but it's an everyday example of where he's done something that's a little bit differently and now someone else is doing something a little bit differently, like showing the way of a different way of like travelling
Inspiring
and moving.
people. Yeah. But it's probably inspired. I guarantee after he went there all by himself, your grandpa or your parents probably sat there and thought, that's really cool. Like, I love the fact he's come out there. What's he done? He's got the train. We never get the train. Maybe we should get the train. Yeah, why don't we get the train? You know what I mean? Like, it's probably just that, like, you fall into habits and routines, and sometimes it takes someone showing you a slightly different way to be like, actually, the way I do things probably isn't the best way. Let's just try a different way. If I don't like it, I don't like it. Just coming back to what you were saying about small, steady progressions. I mean, we see that in our business every week, right, in terms of the people we coach. And it reminded me, when you're talking about confidence, of a lady who suffered really badly with going to the gym. Literally sat in the car for half an hour, 40 minutes in the car park, just not wanting to go in. And she would come in sessions and say, I'm so unconfident, just not in the gym, but in everything that I do in life. I feel like I wish I could have more confidence. But then she would come into sessions sometimes, and she was at uni at the time, and she'd tell me these great nights out, she'd have with friends, and then she'd been dancing on the table and stuff. I'm like, well, that's confidence. Like, not everyone can get on the table and dance. She goes, yeah, but I was drunk. I was like, but that's still you. It's still in there. It's just you're using this thing, this alcohol, to facilitate you having more confidence. You need to work out now how you can do that without the alcohol. And I see that a lot. I think people using like stuff as crutches. I think, say so a pinch of salt, my little brother, I think he'll probably admit that he used alcohol quite a lot to try and get around certain situations, like socially, just to make himself feel more confident. And I think it's tricky when you see that unfolding as well. And you never want people you love to, or people you care about, to go down that path where they're using something to try and build this confidence. But stuff like dance is great for that. If you've been doing that since you were at an early age, that's something that's intertwined in your being, in your kind of knowledge of who you are as a person. I am confident, I can get on a stage and I can dance at any time. And I think not enough people have that from an early age. So, parents listening to this, get your kids into stuff that enforces that and encourages that from an early age. Dance, sports, all these things that are going to give your kids that sense of, I can be confident at anything I want to do, for sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
I know. So firstly, I need to reverse engineer Ollie's, your parenting of Ollie. Because honestly, if my little boy Ted got to 17 and were like, 10 out of 10, I'm going travelling, job well done. One thing I really wanted to ask you, Becky, was, I suppose when you're not confident, like what are your steps when you're maybe suffering with that low confidence? Is it a case of gritting your teeth, doing it anyway?
It depends on what it is. But most of the time, yes. But I will then take something like really small. So, like when people say like celebrate the small wins, I'm like, just get rid of the small, like just celebrate the wins. But now with the way that I think and the things that I teach and the way that I believe, when I'm not confident of something, it's because I can see and acknowledge that it's an opportunity of growth. So rather than, which is what old me would have done, I'm not confident in this, it's not for me, I'm not going to do it, I'm not enough, and kind of step back and stop. Now I see it as an invitation to, I'm not confident in this, but here I have a choice. So I have a choice. Do I want to be more confident in it? Yes. Therefore, what are the small steps that I can kind of do towards that? Or if I don't, then I choose not to. But yeah, I think I've always said to my kids, and it's something that I advocate when I'm teaching, I always say to people that the success is in the decision to do something, not in the outcome. So going back to like the lady at the gym, and I think it's how we're brought up in education, everything is goal orientated. Everything is like outwardly celebrated. What did you achieve? Like, so my son also plays football. I've never ever said to him, did you win? In any game. So if I wasn't able to go, or I didn't see him, because when he'd come home I'd be like, how was it today? How did you get on? And he's a goalkeeper, right? So like he came home like a few weeks ago and he was like, well, the team result was this. However, I had a really good game. So they can separate out. Like my daughter a few weeks ago, she had an audition for something. And I said to her on the way there, I was like, you do know that your success is the fact that you're already here. You're already showing up because you're choosing to meet a version of yourself here today that at the moment is still a little bit of a stranger to you. So regardless of the outcome and regardless of the result, it's about who you become along the way. And that's, I think, where confidence comes from. And then confidence then becomes internal, which is the best place that we need it to be. Not confident because we got a result or because this particular thing happened or because I achieved X, knowing that I'm confident in who I am regardless of all these other things that are going on.
It's really good. That reminds me actually of not Nadal. What's the other really famous tennis player called? Federer. He gave a fantastic speech, and I can't remember exactly what the stats were. But he's obviously one of the most decorated tennis players of all time, right? One of the most successful, won the most games. But if you look at how many points he's won, he's only won like 30% of points.
I feel like I know what you're referring to. I feel like I remember hearing it and thinking,
and he gave a speech actually at a university, and he just highlighted the fact that it's not about the winning all the time. It's about your attitude and you showing up and you being there and you're looking for one small ounce of improvement every time you step on the pitch, the court, whatever it is. And I really like that mantra that you've kind of had with your kids. Is like, we're not going to celebrate, just the wins. We're going to celebrate everything. We're going to celebrate the small, the big, the micro, the macro. And
celebrate who they are in the process. So, like we talked about, like fitness and stuff earlier on when I first got here. And like when I first start, even now when I go to like the gym, like I don't measure things. Because if it was always about getting to that, my motivation and everything would be about the getting. And actually what I find now is so much more fulfilling is the becoming the person that turns up and does whatever it is on that day. And sometimes that might not always be, depending on, again, females, like where we are in our cycle can be like a really big thing. We're not always able to lift the same as what we could on another time. But rather than then thinking, well, I'm trying to aim for this and I don't quite get to that, and then I don't quite get to that, and then I think that I'm a failure, and then I think I've let myself down and blah, 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 I go, but if I've shown up today and if I've done the best that I can do, so going back to what we said earlier on about bringing everything back, being the best version you can be, then that's successful. And then that just becomes an identity of someone that is just becoming from the inside out. And then when I do, I do achieve, things at the gym that I think, oh, I've not done that before. But it kind of comes to me naturally, and I enjoy the process more. I'm like, oh gosh, I've done 10 kilo in each arm today. Oh, I've not done that before. But if I'd have set off 18 months ago thinking about trying to be that person when I'm still doing 4s or 5s, it would have felt like I wasn't achieving, but yet I was. So just taking the process at the time and appreciating where you are on the journey, I think is it's a really important thing.
Definitely.
To do.
I think as human beings, we tend to get very fixated on like one element on one metric within something. So like gym's a great example because we all want to hit PBs, right? We all want to lift heavier weights. But you can't go into the gym every single time and PB every single set that you do. You might do early on because you're kind of new to it, you're getting back into it, whatever, but there's going to come a point when you kind of have to just work on other bits and realise that it's all building to this kind of accumulation of you over time, improving your numbers. And I see it a lot in running actually, because when people get into running, every time they're out for a run, they're a little bit quicker, and a little bit quicker, and a little bit quicker. And all of a sudden it starts to kind of steady off a little bit. And then they start to lose interest because they're not getting these same gains. And I'm like, well, if you want to keep going, the progress is going to be longer now. It's going to be slower. But let's do it for another reason. Is it making you feel really good? Yes. Do you feel great when you finish? Is there an endorphin rush? Do you feel fitter? You're flying up flights of stairs now like you never were before. Do you feel healthier in yourself and just more positive? Perfect. So why are we just focusing on this one thing of improving that number every time you go out? Don't worry if you don't hit that number. Sometimes you'll hit it, sometimes you won't. But you're still doing it. You're still there. You're still engaged and being positive in this thing that you really love. So yeah, focusing on all the things that are encompassed in what you're doing, not just one facet.
But I think if you are going to pick one, then I would always go with internal fulfillment. whatever that might be, because that is something that then you can have that one every single time, regardless of, the weight or the run or the test result or the result in a game or the promotion at work, or, anything in life. If you bring it back to an internal fulfillment, an internal development, an internal growth, an internal becoming, and everything just accumulates internally and creates it is just so much more of a peaceful place to be, from someone who I was someone that was a high achiever, even at school, I always wanted to do really well. I mean, I certainly wasn't top of the class, but I wanted to always do my best in everything, and same in dance. But then I don't know how much of that came with almost approving. Whereas now, I'm so okay with things being imperfect and being but I did it anyway. That's okay. So even going back to Inspire, Inspire, I give myself permission now to be imperfect, to give myself permission to show up and be the version that I am on that particular day. And rather than putting pressure on myself all the time to be the absolute best, it's just being the best that I am in that day, in that experience. And Inspire, if I'd have stood up on that stage, and for starters, it was a beautiful environment because it was really safe, that if I had stood up on that stage and just had an absolute meltdown, everyone would have just clapped at it anyway. And that's the thing, it's about being around the right people who, when you are there doing something new or stepping out, are just going to go, yes, this is it, keep going.
It's a great place to get started with stuff like that, finding those environments. Had you intended on talking at Inspire? Had Luke spoke to you beforehand and said, will you come and give a few words?
So Luke did an event in the September for schools, and I went and watched that, and I really want to do speaking, that's the dream for me.
Really? You'd love to get into that public speaking and travel
absolutely.
around and do it all? Yeah.
Definitely. That is the absolute, that's the fundamental dream, as to if you say to me now, what would you absolutely love to achieve? I'd be I would want to be a global speaker. It would every single day to maybe every day might get a bit tired, but to travel the world to spread a message. And when you were talking earlier on about the tennis player, I can remember the exact speech that I listened to, that I just thought, I want to do that. And it's a Denzel Washington speech, and he spoke to a load of graduates, and he basically just talked about falling forwards. He's you don't need a backup plan. If you're going to fall, fall forwards. And I literally watched it completely and utterly sobbing. But I just think words are really powerful. I think that to be able to say something that could potentially impact somebody, to make a different change, to do something different, to support a trajectory of something in somebody's life, I just think is such a privilege to be able to do. And there's just some, I've always made a joke actually when I've gone, I didn't end up on a West End stage, but that's because I weren't destined to dance on stage, I was destined to speak. And I do really enjoy talking and sharing messages, and I'm quite a deep person. I've always got to have meaning behind what I'm doing. But that's kind of what I would love to do. So Luke had done this event for the kids, and I was I could do that. I'd love an opportunity to do that. And then when he planned Inspire, and he was there's a moment to shine opportunity, and I was obviously I'm already there, definitely I'll do it. And I was really conscious in the moment that it was only 5 minutes, which is not a long period of time actually, and it was quite a tricky environment because there was no timer, no board, or I've gone and done speeches and stuff in schools, but you've got a PowerPoint, or you've got time, or
some reference point of where you are.
But then it was about saying yes. It was about the successes in the action. Yes, I'm going to do it. Yes, getting up there gets me closer to a version of myself that, I'm wanting to become and wanting to do. And the main thing as well that I wanted to do, which I do think that I did based on people I've had a conversation with, is I wanted to say something that was tangible that people could take away. Because I think sometimes it's really good listening to people's stories, listening to people's experiences, but then I suppose it's the part of the teacher in me that then goes, but how do I apply that? What's the applied knowledge?
I agree.
How can,
I'm the same. If I tell someone something to inspire them. I want them to go home with something they can use there and then.
Yeah, because I heard this recently, and it's not mine, but I think it's amazing, which it says, information without implementation doesn't equal transformation. And I love that. So we can hear loads of information, but it's about being able to give something to somebody that they can implement. And again, one thing, sometimes the small things that we often actually almost dismiss as them not being big enough. Like usually the times in our life where we think that we're not moving forward, or the people that when they're coming to their fitness sessions and they think that they're not improving, like that's when the most amount of improvement is actually happening, because it's all happening below the surface first. And again, things have to happen internally before everything changes externally.
Anyone can turn up when they're motivated.
Yeah.
It's just when things get tough and you just turn up anyway. And it really got me thinking when you mentioned Denzel and Ryan mentioned about Roger Federer. I listened to a Steve Jobs talk he did, probably the same for graduating college, I think it was. He talked about you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only do it looking back. And I suppose you now, going from where you mentioned it right at the start of the pod to where you're at and where you want to get to, you can probably like backdate those spots and be like, oh, actually, I'll go back on them dots and I can see that I was confident on stage because of this. I'm a really good talker because of this teaching, which I absolutely love that. And I'm hoping you two can help me out with this. I've wrote down here, Never Stop Becoming, which is a slogan from, I think it's a clothing brand, but I can't remember who it is. But it's called Never Stop Becoming. And as you were speaking, I'm like, I really need to say this to Becky because...
It's not Patagonia, is it?
I couldn't tell you.
Maybe that's Never Stop Exploring.
Yeah. But I'm just like, I mean, you're
you're
never stopping, becoming who you want to be, which I think's phenomenal. For any, I suppose, young kids who, I'm hoping young kids listen to this, maybe people who are in, really aspire to achieve what you want to have achieved. If they are maybe struggling to find who they want to be, what advice maybe have you got for them? That young boy or girl who wants something more from life, or they've been inspired by something, how can they go about and do it?
I think that one of the main things is to actually really connect with who they are. Because in my experience, I think a lot of youngsters who maybe feel a bit lost perhaps do maybe know who they are underneath, but perhaps maybe feel a little bit cautious or a little bit scared of whether that would be accepted or not. So then that comes back to the individuality thing. And I always say as well, and I've said it in all of the times I'm teaching, and it be a message that I'll continue to spread, like whatever you hold in your heart, or like whatever you have there as a desire or as a possibility, I genuinely think that people have that because they have the capability to be able to do it. Like it wouldn't be in somebody's ambition if they weren't able to fulfill it. So it's there for a reason. And then it's just, what small steps can I do each day? And, for in terms of like youngsters or teenagers, little things like, am I an organised person? Yeah, how can I be more organised? Okay, I can make my bed each morning. I can get my school bag ready like the night before. So it's taking traits of a particular person that they choose to be. Oh, I want to be on time. So then looking at how in my week and where in my week can I make sure that then I'm on time. So who we become it literally is in the tiny little micro moments of behaviours and beliefs and things that we do. So it's deciding who they want to show up as and how they want to show up and how they want to move through life. And when I say each day, like there's not always an opportunity each and every day. Making your bed, that's an easy one. You can make your bed every day. But, or I've decided I want to be a kind person. Okay, so then can we pay somebody a compliment each and every day? Because by paying somebody a compliment each and every day, you're embodying the person of somebody that's kind. So then all of a sudden you're then becoming that person. So I would always say start with the really small things that shape behaviour.
So go on. One thing that I've always lived by, rightly or wrongly, some people agree and disagree with this, but I've always believed you should fake until you make it. And that's exactly what that is essentially. You're trying to fake it a little bit. You might not be a very organised person, but for someone who's in the teenage years, who's looking at self-development from an early age, a really easy win is just like you said, making your bed in the morning. If you can commit to that 7 days a week, immediately you've got some kind of structure and routine and organisation to your day and week. And then you start to feed in other things, and all of a sudden you are thinking more consciously about being organised and habits and scheduling. And then, if you want to change your personality and be more confident, put yourself out there like you did at Inspire and be like, I want to get on that stage and break that barrier of talking in front of an audience. And even before we went to Inspire, I was very vocal about how nervous I felt, probably more so than I'd let on. But I knew that, I think, number one, I couldn't let Brad down. And I couldn't, let Luke down. I didn't want to get on the stage and go, no, sorry lads, I just can't do this. Yeah. You've kind of just got to go, you know what, no, this is it. This is great. And I was very nervous, but I think when you get in that environment, like you said, it was super positive, wasn't it? It was really like, and it was an environment where it was almost encouraged to be like, get out of your comfort zone. If you're here right now and you've got a message and you want to get up on stage, come and say something. And that was really nice place to go and do those things. And for young people, go and seek out events like that, which is really hard, isn't it? Because I would never have known about Inspire if it wasn't for Luke on the podcast and we hadn't been connected by one of my clients, Rob. Getting to those kind of events, speaking to people in your class who maybe know people who have been to those kind of events, done stuff like that. Maybe their parents do a little bit of public speaking. How can I go and sit in the audience and potentially tell a little story, or I might get called up? It's putting yourself in environments where that stuff's encouraged. The person you want to be, who are the people you've got to hang around to be like that?
Yeah. Can I just go back to the fake it till you make it thing?
Absolutely.
Because it's the principle of what you're saying, I agree with in the fact of what it kind of can represent. But then from an identity point of view, if we're faking something, then it actually separates that from us. Do you not like
that phrasing?
I don't love it, no, because for me, faking then becomes a little bit performative. So it then comes back into the performative side, the proving it. Whereas the principle of it, I agree with, which is fundamentally is embodying something. So even though all it is terminology, and because I love words, it's just kind of, so I would never say fake it until you make it. I'd be like, do it until you become it.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a levelled up version of fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I do much prefer the way you've said that, because I guess there's always a bit of a disassociation when you fake it. It's like, that's someone that I'm not. I'm faking it. I'm not actually that person.
So then it separates. It takes away. If you're faking something, it's like there's a separation between what the version of somebody is that would do that and who you are. Whereas actually they do have to combine to do that. And going back to what you were saying about the nerves, and this is obviously in a lot of the things that I do now, I support people with negotiation of fear and nerves. Those nerves came up in that situation, not because you weren't capable, because you were invited into a situation that you've never experienced before. And the brain, whether we're capable or not, whether we've got the potential for it or not, whether we've got the talent or not, the brain will only ever support something completely if it's got evidence that you're able to do it. So next time round, you're going to get up on that stage and be able to do that because the brain's got evidence that you've already done it. Whereas in that instant scenario, that feeling of oh God, I don't know if I can do it, or it's because your brain and your identity didn't have the evidence that you were able to do it. And that's why, the comfort zone and things a lot of people say, it's comfortable in the comfort zone. It is comfortable in the comfort zone because that's where we're most competent and that's where we become most confident. And then, but we can only grow and expand and achieve the things that we perhaps want to do beyond where we think that we're capable of by meeting a situation like that, which to me was an opportunity to expand your identity, and you said yes to that. So the next time around, that's going to be easier for you to do. So then you just build the evidence on that. So you did it to become it.
No, I love that. I think rephrasing it. And there's always that imposter syndrome that you feel as well when you're feeling like you're faking it, because you'll get put in a situation sometimes where you'll really be challenged as to who you are. And if you feel like you've faked it to get there, that imposter syndrome will really start to kick in and you'll feel like, I don't belong here. This is not me. But I have spoken on stage before, in groups of people, not individually. And I always felt quite nervous, and I think it all stems back to like when I was maybe at university. I used to have to give talks. I was always the one on paper, like this shaking in front. I think about these harrowing memories I've got of having to give like talks on stuff I was working on, and always like feeling like I was bottling it and messing my words up, and just feeling really embarrassed. And that's my bank of evidence.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I pull on. So when I go on stage, I go, no, you're not that confident guy. You're that guy at uni who was fucking shaking with his paper in his hand. Do you know what I mean?
I'm so glad that you've brought that up, because that then comes back to how a limiting belief is formed. Because ultimately in that aspect, so not everything that we're always going to do is always going to be like a positive. There are times where there will be a challenge, and then the brain then associates that with, okay, no, we're not doing that again. Absolutely not. Like, no way. You know, and again, going back to like the Liverpool thing with Ollie, because I sort of said, well, how do you feel that like your plane got diverted? And he's like, well, I feel okay with it because I've experienced it now. But it also could have been like, if he'd have panicked about it, or then it would have been like, oh my God, every time I get on a plane next time, what if it gets diverted because he can't land? Or so there's always two kind of sides to look and everything. But again, going back to what I try and say, like, so what, even if you're at uni, if you were shaking, if you go back to what I said earlier on, which is, but ultimately you stood up and you did it, you've got proof of being able to cope with a situation. Because if you take the outcome of it away, but take your look of, but I did it anyway, it then becomes back to it being internal rather than...
Because you could have, anyone can always choose not to do something. Do you know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
And sometimes that can be the right decision as well. Sometimes that can be the right decision. I'm a big believer on like listening to what, like, as I say, like what it feels like, and the intuition and the internals, because the brain likes logic, but I'm a typical kind of feeler. Like, you know, it's always really funny in our house, like when we're going on holiday, because Andrew will be like, what do you think of this hotel? And I'll just be like, no. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, I just don't feel it. And he's like, what do you mean you don't feel it? Like, I just don't. But the price is good, or this is it might be from a logical point of view, but I just don't feel it. And I think it's just about knowing kind of how you operate as like a person. Like, I am really intuitively led. I'm a feeler. So then when my brain starts, and the other thing I heard recently, and I loved it, talking about like the difference between how the body reacts and then the brain and past memories. When our body feels something and like we start to get like a little bit nervous, our brain wants explanation for that. And then we try and start thinking our way out of why our body is feeling a certain way. You can't actually think yourself out of a feeling. You can only actually move a physiological state by actually then changing the state. So like this morning, you know, I was nervous about coming here today, because this is a version of me who I'd not yet met coming and doing something like this. So my body's, you know, doing the same as what yours was, because it's at the edge of that like identity expansion. I was like, I'm off out for a run, because I knew that by doing that would move the energy in my body, and then it would settle everything, rather than sitting there and just actually turning myself and spiraling myself inside out with my brain trying to think of all of the reasons why it could go well today, or all of the reasons why things might not.
I feel like it's a frequency thing as well. Like when Ryan first sort of told me, like, I'm like, how are you feeling about Inspire? And I'm like, a little bit nervous. And I remember being really vocal with Ryan, saying, I don't really feel that. And it went until I look back and I'm like, why don't I feel nervous? And it is a frequency thing. Like, I've done tons of group fitness in the past. And like you said about those, when you look into neuroscience, the predictive maps and predictive loops that your brain goes through, getting that proof and actually saying, okay, all right, yeah, I can see what I can tie this to now. I can see if I can move this forward, then why not? And yeah. One thing I've put here, Becky, as well, is about speaking of like the taxonomy of words and phrases that maybe we don't like. I wrote this down as soon as you said you weren't a big fan of fake it till you make it. What would you say to someone who says, well, you know, what you see is what you get? For me, that's always been hugely limiting, because it's almost like they're not really willing to accept and willing to learn new information. So when someone maybe says what you see is what you get, do you see that as a genuine thing, or is it very limiting? I'm curious.
I think it would depend on the person, and it would depend on the context and like the situation, because that's something I say about myself. Like I say about myself, like, what you see is what you get. But I mean that in a way that like I believe I'm quite authentic in the way that like I show up. I'm quite an honest person. I'm quite an open person. I wear my heart on my sleeve type of way. So that's kind of how I see it like that. I think with any scenario and any words, I think it's like a coin. I think there's positives and negatives to it all. I think it's about the perception of it. I think it's about the meaning kind of behind it. Because in that aspect, what you see is what you get. Like, I don't see that as being a negative or a limiting thing, and yet you do. So that's just different experiences and opinions on the same thing. I mean, could you give me another one?
Good question. Let me have a think. Yeah, I think just to give a bit more, I suppose, insight into that one, it's probably more who's asking it. You know, if someone who's saying that, and they maybe don't have the experience of being open-minded and learning new things, maybe it is a bit of a limiter where they say, well, what you see is what you get. I'm not willing to change, not willing to grow. Whereas your spin's quite interesting. Yeah.
I mean, not willing to change, like, to that, I'd just be like, okay then. Because if someone's not willing, you can't force. And I think sometimes as well, like when I first started getting into my coaching and learning more about like the brain side and things, like I just wanted to tell everybody all that. I was like, oh my God, like I just want to share with you like what I've learned and la la la. But then sometimes I realised that I was putting across, probably like a little bit forceful, and like, you know, my family would be like, stop coaching me. Yeah. Like, you know, whereas now I'd just be it. And I think sometimes like you can't force change. And I think a lot of frustrations in life sometimes for people can be about how maybe other people are, how other people think, how other people move. Whereas I'm like, that's okay. Like that's their choice. And sometimes people, unless they've been shown a different way like that, again, it comes back to a protective thing. Like their brain knows that they're safe in that way that they're operating now. And the brain will always pick familiar and safety over like growth. Some of us are more open to growing, and even though it feels a stretch, being okay with that, there are some people that are just not. And I always think that's actually okay. If that's how they want to be, that's okay, because everybody has a right to be and move how they want. Is that how I want to move? No, but I don't criticise or judge that particular person for that, because I don't know the reason why they think that. I don't know what may have happened for that safety to be there, for that protection behaviour to like be there. But sometimes by then leading by example, and I think that's the biggest thing, like in parenting, it's like kids learn so much by you doing rather than what you say. So if I gave a piece of advice to somebody and they didn't want to take it, or then I'll be like, that's okay with that, but I can keep doing the things that I do, and eventually they might think, oh, actually, in order for me to go to where I am now, here to there, oh, I could adopt those things, and then I could, but people have got to do things when they're ready, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we know that from coaching, don't we? Like, people just aren't ready for change sometimes.
Changes
People aren't ready.
Quite scary for a lot of people.
Yeah, people aren't ready to accept help. They might have all the kind of will in the world, they might have all the money in the world to throw at a problem, but if they're not ready for it, they're not ready to embody that change and become a slightly different variation of themselves, they'll never do it. And I'm not too proud to admit that we've had people who've had some fantastic results here and regressed because they felt like they were doing it for other reasons that weren't right for them, and they did it for someone else. They did it because they maybe got shamed into it. Did it because they were embarrassed in a certain situation. They felt like they had to do it, but it wasn't what they really wanted. A lot of the time they do go back and they right the wrongs for the right reasons, but you've got to know inside you that it's right for you, and it's why. And you said a second ago about how when you got into understanding the brain and psychology and how all this works, you want to share it with everyone. You want to show people there's a new way you can do things differently. I'm sure me definitely, and yourself, Fred, when we first started PTing and you start coaching and you understand the body and training, you go into the gym and you want to help everyone. You see someone doing a tricep press down wrong and you're like, mate, hinge more, get your elbows locked, come on. That leg press, you're not doing that right. Get that full extension on though, that leg extension there. You want to help everyone. You want to share that knowledge with people because you know it can help them. But actually, a lot of people, they just want to go and do their own thing. They're not that bothered about it being optimal. They're working the right muscles. They just want, like you said when you first came in, right? You would go into the gym, and for you don't want that headspace of having to work out your own training program. You want to turn up to a session, it'd be easy. Someone tell me what to do, and I want to get the job done. I'm there for one reason, to feel good, to get a sweat on, to keep myself in shape. People just want to go to the gym and they want it to be like that. They want it to be easy. They don't want to have to overthink the biomechanics of a movement. And it is that mental headspace. Like, what have you got in your head that's kind of, what are you kind of willing to accept?
Absolutely. I feel like we can't have Becky Farrar on and not discuss fear, which was ultimately the topic of conversation at your talk for Inspire 2026. When I mentioned fear, what's the first emotion that is evoked for you? Because I imagine it's not like most people. It's not like you might remember the times that you were terrified. You might think of times you were brave.
Yeah, so still now with fear, there's still a part of me where my body goes, because it's still a new concept that's like that I'm evolving and, learning about in the way that I now kind of want to teach it. So there's still like a thing where your body goes, ooh, but then it comes back to, but that's an invitation. It's an invitation to grow and expand. And so fear for me has kind of been a real huge part of my journey for the last 3.5 years, because I was on a mastermind in 2022 and we had to do a meditation about our future, like a visualization and what it would look like and everything else. And then we had to write notes and what have you. But even writing that, it was almost like in this state of a different kind of, state of being. And none of my future looked like what I was currently doing at the time. And I literally was like, what the fuck? And I remember driving home and I was sobbing the whole way home, because I was it was almost like I'd unlocked something within my subconscious mind that just didn't exist consciously. But it was it
wasn't the hot pen exercise, was it?
I've never heard of that.
No. It sounds similar to what you did. Yeah, the hot pen's very much you just write 15 minutes.
Okay.
You just lock in. And you get to a stage where you just don't stop writing. And it sounds very similar to what you did. I thought I'd double check.
I've never heard of it like that. I don't I don't really remember and recollect a lot about it, because I believe when things are coming up like this for me, it's because it's not in, like when I said I don't remember when I really started teaching, and I don't remember the moment that I did this, because they were just kind of there in the background. But so then I started to think about, that could be what my future would be like, and that could be a possibility. But every time I thought about doing something different or changing, I was met with fear. And I just went through a journey of having so much desire in one hand and then so much fear in the other. And this is obviously quite a big aspect, because this was a career change. But sometimes people can experience fear just in small everyday emotions of fear are comparison, guilt, overthinking, perfectionism, people pleasing, procrastination, all of those things underneath it are to do with something that's related to fear. And so when I got the opportunity to stand on stage at Inspire and I wanted to share something that was a tangible, I was but when I look back at my journey from my dance teaching all the way through to where I am today, what has been the thing that I've had to navigate the most? And that it came down to fear. It came down to fear. And so I was maybe it's not about about not feeling it, it's about changing our relationship with it. And I don't even know how I ended up kind of saying it, but I said, like, well, maybe if it's not a stop sign. And someone that I was with was like, just say that again. I was like, maybe if like fear's not a stop sign, like so many people experience fear and go, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, can't do this is not for me, which is what I did back at dance college, oh, comparison came up, this is not for me, I'm not good enough, blah, 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 blah. But actually what that was at the time, but I didn't know, that was an opportunity to expand into a different dancer that I didn't know how to be. So it's about changing our relationship with fear. So I created the fear theory, which is around, like, F is about focusing on the future that you want and the future version of you. So, usually fear will come up when we're almost like in a doorway to something. So it's like, think we're on the cusp of an expansion or an edge of like stretch or change or growth or transition or whatever it is. So it's like just taking like an intentional pause and being like, okay, so I'm feeling this now. How can I feel into it? F, future self. What would the future version of me like do right now? Would they say yes to that opportunity? Is it something that's going to take me closer towards the direction that I want to go? And sort of having that. And then E is like expansion capacity. So we haven't gone too much into it today and it's quite a big thing, but ultimately as well, going back to like growth, people's nervous systems have to be on side. So I've always been hugely into mindset and loved mindset and psychology in the way of like thinking, but actually sitting underneath now is the nervous system. Like if the nervous system doesn't view the path that you want to take as being safe, like your body won't even be able to hold it. So being aware of like expansion capacity, lots of things like emotional awareness. Yeah, I do feel fear here, but it's because it's new. It's because I'm evolving. It's because I'm growing, not because I'm not capable. So we're just a few questions there. And then A is your aligned action, which is like deciding. That's obviously ultimately where we have the fear meeting the courage and then deciding to step forward. Now again, which I briefly said earlier, sometimes aligned action can be, actually right now I just need to pause. Because again, if we're stretched too much, so like me completely changing my career a few months ago, I'm really mindful now with the things that I do. So a few weeks ago, I had a really like week where I felt really overwhelmed and I felt really teary and I felt like really, really, really emotional because I'd done too much expanding at once. So then my nervous system goes, oh, what the fuck? So I always say growth is we need to do it like risotto, like slow and small. And, but so sometimes aligned action is that one small step forward that takes us closer towards something. Sometimes aligned action is just pausing to integrate a version of ourselves that is coming in. And then R ultimately comes back to reinforcing identity. So that goes back to, is how I am being now? Are the things that I am doing now, are they a representation of the person that I want to become? Are they the things that are going to help and support me towards the version of me that I want to be? And I always say the version of me and the becoming is the us, because the goals and the exterior things and all that can all change. So I'll always take it back to, but what type of person do I want to be? Who do I need to be in order to achieve X? But it's about the becoming within us. So by reinforcing the identity, the small sustainable changes, reflecting on the things that we do and repeating small behaviours, because then the repetition and all of that then reinforces the identity, and then all of a sudden we become somebody different. So like I could say to both of you, like, think of like something that you do now that like this time 12 months ago you didn't do, or this time 2 years ago you didn't do, but now it's part of who you are. And that's how we then kind of move like through it. And it's like a cycle, because if you are someone that wants to learn and grow and evolve and transition, and fear's going to come up, it's going to come up again and again and again and again. And there's and that's why I think having a different relationship with it is really important, because then instead of going, oh shit, like I'm here again, because I used to do that, like you get good at something and then you'd be like, I'm back here again. Here I am again. Why? And I was questioning, why am I feeling like this? Well, but actually it was just asking me to grow in a different way. And when we're asked to grow in a different way, we have to become a version of ourselves that we've not yet met. And when we become somebody that we don't yet know how to be, fear is going to come up, because we go back to the brain not having the evidence and all of the different things. So yeah, it's changing the relationship with fear. And now my saying around fear is, it's not a stop sign, it's a doorway to expansion.
I've never heard fear broken down like that, but it all makes total sense. And I love that phrase, it's not a stop sign, which we're kind of told and taught that it is. You know, if you feel nervous around something and you fear it, avoid it. And I think it's probably like an inbuilt genetic thing in all of us as human beings, isn't it?
Yeah.
To run away from things that make us scared.
Yeah, because it comes back to safety.
Yeah.
So it comes back to safety, and that's why it's about meeting it at a point where the nervous system accepts it as like a stretch without sort of sending you across. But that's exactly...
But it's a very primal feeling. And I think it all stems back to, like, you know, prehistoric times when fear was really important. Like, you know, we were alive for survival.
Absolutely.
Fear was like an intuition. Like we always say, that gut feeling. If your gut feeling's fearing something, you go with that. Like, and you know, if you're going down a path one time and it feels not quite right, and you've got your family with you, and you're in caveman times, and you've got you and your club, and it's saying, this don't feel right, you turn back. You go with your gut feeling. That fear is there for a reason. But I think we live in different times now, don't we? We live in times where that becomes quite irrational to a certain degree.
I'm sure we're only born with two fears.
What's the two fears?
Falling and loud noises. I'm pretty certain they're the only two like inherent fears we're born with. Everything else is sort of environmentally learned, or maybe, like you said, for some reason, spiders or something that looks like a snake or a rat. Like, you're going to jump a little bit. It seems to be inherently built in us. Like maybe from like a genetic coding thing where it just says, oh, right, millions of years ago, somebody probably died from one of them. It is quite an interesting one.
They've done studies on dreams and like monsters in kids' dreams as well, and that apparently is like something in our DNA because there was monsters at night. There was like jaguars and bears and snakes and things that would be very horrible for kids to, you know, navigate in. And we could go down the whole rabbit hole of sleep and dreams and stuff like that. That's a whole other podcast. But it's something that was warranted back in the day, but now we have to navigate, and little tools like that are great for understanding.
And I think like it's important to mention that like my take on fear is when it's an internal thing about a stretch within us, like not a spider or not a heights or not that to me is a completely different level of like what I'm thinking about. Mine is about when it shows up on like the edge of an identity expansion, like the edge of us becoming something different. And what I ultimately teach is like the voice of protection comes up, like, don't go that way, just turn this way, you know. And I saw a quote yesterday actually, and it just, you know, I said earlier on about being like really feeling oriented, like, you know, usually our intuition and our feelings that's the part that comes first. And then everything else after that is then negotiating with the fear and understanding it. Yeah,
agreed.
You mentioned a key word earlier, Becky, that I really want to expand on since we're talking about expansion, which is identity. And obviously we're all parents sat around this table. I've spoke to several people at like the back end of last week and this week about maybe they feel this sense of identity loss when they do become a parent, specifically mums in particular, where I spoke to my wife about it. I'm like, how did you feel like the first year, 2 of being a mum? And she's like, I had no idea who I was. I just felt like Teddy's mum. I don't know if you ever felt that on a personal level, and is that quite a common one of maybe it's parents you speak to, are these kids who we've come in contact with before?
I think it's all down to the individual. I think it depends at what time. Now, interestingly for me, so I was a really young parent, and I actually think that actually stood me in quite good stead, because I think I was like a little bit naive almost. And because I was really young, so like I remember being like, oh, you know, like he can just come along with us. And we did, like we'd go out still like, you know, for curry on a Friday night, and he would come along like in the car seat, because it was like, I always said, you know, and again, could well be judged for this, but I was like, I want the child to fit into the life that we sort of already have, and it to be an extension of that. And that actually worked really well for us. It really did.
If it's any consolation, we've said exactly the same.
Yeah. And I think that, and I don't think that there's anything wrong. And I think this is the thing with parenting. I think that there's, again, so much fear around judgment or what might other people think, and there's like so many different books and there's so many different ways you can do things. And the one thing that I did do with Ollie, like, I just kind of did what I wanted to do and followed my instinct with him and my intuition with him, and kind of made him like part of the things that we were doing. But my mum offered to look after him once a week from when we were like, he was only a few weeks old. And that's what my mum's mum had done, like, for her. And I think that enabled Andrew and I to still be like Becky and Andrew. And I think just having your own time, not even sometimes as a couple, but whatever that might be, and it doesn't have to be huge amounts of time, but finding the time to still maintain that connection with yourself. And I always said doing stuff for me made me a better parent. Like it did, like now if my, you know, people talk about having, you know, full cups and stuff, but parents pour a lot out. But it is important to fill it back up, because otherwise then we are just tired and we are just drained, and there's, you know, sometimes a resentment there. Whereas I know that I'm a better parent when I do stuff for me. And I remember getting asked by a parent who, she's actually turned up to like one of my realign like wellbeing sessions, and she was like, you know, I came here tonight feeling like a little bit guilty, like how do I not feel that guilt? And I literally said, do it more. Because again, going back to she's feeling guilty because she's doing something that she maybe wouldn't normally do. So then what does the brain do? The brain goes, don't do that because you don't normally do that. So I'm going to make you feel really guilty. So you go back to the behaviour that you've always done. And I was like, do the things like for you. And then the other thing that I used to say is, going back to what I've said it today as well, about being the example of, you know, if you're then the best version of yourself for you support your children to be the best version for them. So then they don't grow up thinking that they've just got to put into everybody else. Like, there's been times in my life where I've been called selfish, and I saw it as like a real negative, like for a real long time. But I actually think that the world would turn a little bit better if people, it's said as being selfish, but I like to think but prioritising you. And I think it's important to prioritise us, because when we can meet our needs and our needs are met, we're the better version of ourselves that we can be for those people around us.
I think that identity crisis comes from exactly that. It's when you try and change too much about the routine. I think you almost mould your life around the kids rather than moulding the kids around your life. And I think you're probably right. It probably did serve you quite well having kids young, because you realise that I still want to go and have fun. I still want to go and do all the things I want to do. Whereas when you get to your 30s, you kind of think, well, I've done all that now. Now I'm into this next phase of life and I have to change. Well, really, you don't. I think a lot of people in the 30s have that existential crisis. I know a lot of the parents that I coach in the mid-30s, maybe early 40s, do have this sense of like, oh, the good old days kind of thing. Well, the good days can be now if you really do it the right way and factor in the kids in the right way, and not let go of that life, just kind of factor it in a different way. I think it's a very difficult, I've definitely felt it for sure, 100%. I mean, you haven't done parenting right unless you've had that certain sense of, we used to have it so much better for the kids, but you have to enter that next phase of life. You have to go through those challenges, work out how you can integrate them into what you want to do. I mean, Saturday night for us was a great example of that, right? Yeah. For us both as parents, because that went on to 10:30. Yeah. We're at the Sheffield Sharks. It started at 7:30. That's her bedtime usually.
Basically, Ted's bedtime.
Yeah. So, but we're at this place going, and we were having this conversation. Do we do it? Do we not? It's a bit late. I was like, I'd normally go. If it was up to me and we didn't have a kid, we'd go to that 100%. So why can't we just bring her along, give her a little nap during the day? I mean, she was a bit of a nightmare on the way home, screaming. But it's just part of, again, you've got to factor all those things into the way you want to live. And that's where that real happiness as a parent comes from.
Yeah, like I think when you become a parent, like there are a lot of changes, like a lot of logistical changes, lots of things that move. And, you know, again, people use the word like sacrifice and things, but I think that it's just doing things differently. And I think embracing each different stage. I mean, like teens get like a real negativity. Like it has been my favourite stage of parenting.
Really?
Oh my God, I have loved having teenagers.
How old are your kids now?
That's so rare to hear, by the way.
Yeah. So 17 and...
So Ollie will be 18 next month, and Isla's 14, 15 this year.
Wow.
And I don't know whether it's just because they're now like really kind of people who have got like their own emerging identities, their own minds, the level of conversations. And I've always parented as well on like a level. So, you know, like, did you grow up in a like do as I say, not as I do, all that kind of like
a little
thing?
bit, yeah, a little bit.
Or like, but there's always like sometimes a bit of a hierarchy between like a parent and a child, whereas I've always been really honest and open with my kids to be like, this is the first time I've had a 17-year-old son. This is the first time I've had like a 14-year-old daughter. Like, I'm not going to get stuff right. So talk to me. Like, how is this going to like feel? I try to be the parent that they need me to be rather than the one that I feel like I should be in
That's
that
pretty
aspect.
cool. I really like that.
It's that adaptability.
And that created like a really good like relationship. And I do like the fact that I have really good conversations like with my kids, and I invite them to share openly about certain things. And like particularly, I mean, my daughter's like a really open book, you know, but she'll say, can I ask your opinion about something? Or can I talk to you? And I'll be like, yeah. But then are you wanting my opinion as if it's you? Are you wanting my opinion as to what I would do in your scenario? Are you wanting me to give you a whole? And I ask her, what does she want from me in this like scenario? Because 9 times out of 10, she just wants somebody to listen. But I've really enjoyed the teenage phase, and I think, I mean, it also probably because I understand emotion. So when they're being a particular way, not really Ollie, because he's really just like really quite chilled. Isla's got really high like emotions, and I think that's a really great thing. So do I. Like I'm a deep feeler, big empath, this, that and the other, but I allow those emotions as well. And I think that's another really important one. It's like when kids are younger, you know, there's nothing worth. I mean, I remember Ollie actually having a tantrum in like the supermarket, and I literally just stood there while he like did it out. But I was totally okay with people looking at me because in that moment he's just processing his emotions and you know, just letting those all out. But yeah, I do enjoy this phase and going back, the emotional processing. I was like, what was I saying about? And I think when they then have space to be who they are and have us there as like anchors to support, their sense of self and their sense of identity becomes stronger. And then that's how then also they become more confident in who they are as well.
I can say you've got a really good relationship with your kids because just the fact that they're coming to you and they're saying, can I chat to you about this? I think you'd be horrified at how many teenagers don't ever say that to their parents. No. I think there's probably, I don't know if there's any stats out there that we could look up, but I reckon it's a very high percentage of like teenagers especially who just wouldn't feel comfortable going to their parents and talking to them about 99% of things. They'd rather speak to their mate, or, you know, probably just, for guys, probably just bottling up a little bit more. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of things I probably wouldn't have spoke to my mum and dad about. I mean, they were, great parents for sure, 100%, but just have that real deep connection where you see your mum as like almost like a bit of a friend that you can go and confide in, rather than someone, like you said, who it's, you know, there's a rules and we don't talk about emotions and we brush it under the carpet a little bit. That was kind of my childhood a little bit. Like, don't bring those feelings to the forefront. Bury them a little bit.
What's really cool, probably unintentionally on your part, Becky, as well. Like, they're probably not going to settle for anything less as they get older. So that likelihood is their interactions with maybe their future partners, their friends, their close family members, whatever. They're probably not going to settle for why are we being all cloak and dagger? Like, why don't you just be open? Talk to me, tell me what you need, tell me what you want. Like, what an amazing achievement that is.
And they're also going to attract those kind of people. Yeah. Like, you know, they're going to attract people in their life who are like you, very open, very self-aware, present. Such a good thing to instill in your kids that. I do worry about how successful I'll be at doing that. Because I speak to people like yourself who are really, really good at this stuff and very intuitive. And I go, I would love my little girl to be like that. to have that kind of confidence to come to me and say, Dad, can I talk to you about this?
But I think if you give her the permission, then she will. And I'm not saying like Isla definitely comes to me more than what Ollie does. That could be like a, you know, again, he's like a boy and I'm a girl, but he's got the option there. But it's like I've always said to them, like, I'm here to listen, I'm here to support. So you're just creating that space, creating that open space. And then also it's then important that as and when they do, that there isn't then a judgment there, or you know, you've got to kind of hold space for them to like be able to share sort of openly. But also as well, like I've always been really honest with them. Like, you know, if I'm crying about something or I'm emotional about something, like I've never hid it from them. I'm just like, you know, like I'm feeling this now, or I'm a little bit snappy today because I'm experiencing X, Y, and Z. So then they've got a level of understanding as well.
Vulnerability. You're being vulnerable in front of them.
Yeah.
So many parents don't do that. I think
I've always have to.
Yeah, but it's good though. It's good. Like I think not enough parents feel confident enough to sit down with their child and I think take on their worries and their stress. Everyone wants their kids to be perfect. I think sometimes speaking about problems, we think that means that we're not perfect as a family. Where it's the opposite. You're putting those things out into the open so they can process and deal with those things, and you being vulnerable in front of them allows that kind of two-way path for them to kind of reciprocate that. And when they feel a little bit, I don't feel good about something, but mum normally kind of opens up to me about it, so maybe I'll open up to her. That's so important. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You've got it so nailed. I think you're doing parenting great.
Thank you.
I really do.
It is one of the things that a lot of my friends, like, because I was obviously the first one to become a parent in like our friendship group, and they've always said I really admire like the way that. Do
you find that they come to you and they ask you about certain things?
No, not overly. I don't think like the gap, and if they did, they'd probably like Becky, the coach, would be like, yeah, but babe, what do you want to do? But what do you think? What's right for you right now? You know, or I can say, well, actually, this is coming out because you're experiencing this and your child is going through this, but no, and again, it just comes back to like inner knowing, like trust yourself, like do it your way, and I think going back to like. The perfect thing, like I've always been okay with my kid. Like it used to drive me insane. It still does a little bit, like at parents' evening where they'll be like, oh yeah, and you know they got such and such a grade, and that puts them at wherever they are in their class. And I'm like, I really don't give a shit where they are in their class. Like I couldn't. Like I'm not bothered. Yeah. Are they turning up? Like are they turning up and doing what they can do? Like yes or no. Like I'm not bothered where you're ranking them towards everyone else, like where you come. So then, you know, again, it comes back to the conditioning about comparison. Like we hear it from being really tiny. And I said to them both, like, babes, just do you. Like, just do you in everything that you do. It doesn't matter, like, what everyone sort of else is doing. And I'm okay, like, I'm okay with other kids being more academic, and I'm okay with other kids being better or whatever, because it's about just what they're doing, and I'm good with that.
Yeah. Refreshing to hear that, isn't
100%.
it? And I think all you have to do, you can put any parent and any child in this room and we just observe them, and you can tell straight away the relationship that those two people have got together, even if it's like 2-3-year-old and, you know, a dad who's in his 40s. You could just look at the relationship and see straight away whether that's a kind of real bond they've got, or whether it's just I'm the dad and you're the kid and we do things this kind of way. That relationship is so easy to see, isn't it, in real life? And social media sometimes is a very big mask for that. I'm definitely not going to name any names, I'll throw it under the bus, but we've all got those parents and friends we know where it looks amazing online, and then you go and spend some time with them and there's not that bond that you thought was there. And you realise there's a little bit of a facade going on here, and it's not quite as on that deep emotional level that they thought it was. But you can't fake that, can you? You can't fake that connection with your child and that deep caring that you've got for them.
No, and I think as well, the other thing that just made me think when you were chatting then, like I've also been really willing to learn from my kids, so I've always given my kids permission to call me out on stuff, and they do, and they have done, and again, like I've always taken that on board and listened to that, and I've liked that because that's then enabled me to reflect, so then that's given them more confidence to then express, so then you get your relationship becomes reciprocal, like both ways, rather than it just me telling all the time. Like if they're not happy with something, like they can say it to me, and I'll be like, yeah, actually, you probably got a point there. You've actually got a point. Yeah, thanks for that. And I don't know whether that's as well because as a teacher, like being around students for like such a long time, I genuinely believe that we can learn a lot from kids. Like, I think that in schools, like, I can't wait till the day, I'm hoping it happens in my lifetime, where, like, the education system is very different to what it is now, where it is about self-expression and learning more about who we are and our own gifts and using our intuition. And, you know, because the kids who are usually the ones that have got a lot to say, who might be a little bit cheeky, it's like, but they've genuinely got something really valid to say. Like, listen to what they're saying or, like, expressing.
Let's touch on that. What are the big changes you'd see in schools? I mean, you spoke about kind of them being a bit more expressive and open, but would you just put more emphasis on them being that expressive?
So, what would I change? Loads. So, so I'm not a big fan. I appreciate that at the moment we have like a grading system or what have you, but again, it's like, why do we have to grade something? Why can't it just be a process of studying X, Y, or Z? So, you know, I think that there needs to be, if we think like now in like primary schools, but like there's still a lot of, I know English and maths is like important, but I think that there needs to be more for kids who don't fit into the academic boxes, but who have these beautiful skills and geniuses that enable them to do other things. Like, I wholeheartedly believe that everybody on this earth has got their own little genius. Like, they have got an ability to contribute to the world in a way that only they can, and that doesn't always come through like being good at like English or maths or, you know. I think having children understand like their emotions from an early age and being curious at things about an early age. And I know that they've got to have a certain amount of, like, there might be school teachers now that are like, you know, God, you're living in a world, but I know that there's got to be structure and like rules and things like that. But sometimes I think it becomes too much where it like stifles and suffocates kind of the kids. And I remember, I think Isla was like year 3 and she'd done a picture. She'll tell me when I get home what year group it was, and she'd like shown it, and then the teacher was like, well, you could have done this and you could have done that, think about doing that. And like year 3 she'll have been like 7 or 8, and she said that she turned around and went, yeah, but miss, if I did that would be your picture, not mine.
What a great answer.
Yeah.
Take that.
Like, and it's
if that teacher hadn't gone home and gone, she's bloody
she's got a point.
But she would have been branded probably as being cheeky, but like, and it is kind of a cheeky-ish, but she has also got a point. But I think, like, I'm a real fan of like quietness, meditations. Like, I think having quiet time and getting kids to, you know, spend more time inwards. I think things are really busy as well, and you know, but they start now at secondary school, and in year 7 they're talking about what they're going to be doing for their GCSEs, and they've got another like 5 years like at it. It's like a process. I think things need to be so much more like process orientated and honing in on the gifts that each individual kind of child has, which obviously in a practical sense, you know, I don't work in a school and I don't teach in a school, but I'm just on it as a concept, do you know, to help.
I think that's better though, because I think when I know this from, you know, living with a teacher, primary school teacher, right? You know, she follows a curriculum, a syllabus, but she has her own ideas on things, and she does, you know, I think in primary schools a bit more freedom. She coaches year 1 as well, so there's a little bit more of a freedom to do what you want to do. I think as it gets to high school, like at 7 years old, pretty much every decision in life has been made for you up until that point. You've got no sense of really like, what your intuition is, your sense of like direction in life. And maybe you should or maybe you shouldn't, but I think if you want to encourage that, maybe there needs to be, like I say, some meditation sessions. And you're not the first person who I've spoke to about this, and have said, I think meditation in schools, not sitting there with shoes off, cross-legged, like, you know, this, you know, chakra poses and everything, but just having like quiet time in small little groups and just being allowed to just be still with your thoughts.
But then on like the flip side, some kids like couldn't function doing their work. So like I wouldn't be able to like do work with like the radio on, for example, whereas my husband could. But like for some kids, if they're doing their work, like why can't they have their headphones in, like listening to music? So do you know, like a little bit more of like what actually certain children need in order to kind of like learn the best. And even like now, like AI is a big thing, and it's like there'll be like some schools who will be like, well, we can't use that because it's cheating, like, but then it's like, but it's part of the world now. It's, you know, and like maths, can we make it where it's relevant to everyday life? Or you know, my daughter got told recently when she chose to do food, it was a waste of a GCSE, and that was by a teacher in school. I'm like, but we cook every day. We cook every day. How is doing? Okay. So it's just
that is wild, isn't it? I assume that teacher wanted them to do their
to do her subject, or their subject, or you know, and things like that. But I just and like communication, like we teach kids how to effectively communicate, and I don't think that that's necessarily just a school imposition, but there's times where things have got to be done like in quiet, or to deal with conflict, or there's just lots of things. But I just, you know, I think it's about making, I come back to things being process orientated, but that's how I roll. Like, why does it always have to be about grades and outcomes and exams and stresses and all of this?
You mentioned the word suffocated before. It did zap me back a little bit to like primary school and high school, and feeling like there was always a pressure of something coming up, an exam, something we're working towards. And it was always mentioned in class, look, we've got this exam coming up soon, you're getting a test on this, make sure that homework's done. It was a suffocating feeling, wasn't it? And like, there wasn't ever a sense of like, can I just learn French? Can I just like learn some of the things I want to learn? And it's amazing actually, when I left school, how I really had a big push on like podcasts and audiobooks, and my thirst for knowledge actually went through the roof once I got out of formal education. So once I left university, my thirst for knowledge went through the roof, and I really got into like self-development, and I was listening to all these audiobooks, and it's how I kind of got into podcasts and eventually wanted to start my own, because I had this thirst for knowledge. I still do now. Literally before you guys got here, I had this podcast on about like inflammation and processed foods, and I love sitting down with that stuff and learning about it. But I wasn't into that at school. I was the anti-learner. I was a bit of a class clown, to be fair. I liked making people chuckle, but I also just there was a sense of suffocation. That word really resonated with me when you said that.
Love that. Have you got any final questions for Becky, Ryan?
No, just thank you for your time. Thank you for being so open. I think you've shared some fantastic insights, like on the fear stuff and parenting as well. Like I feel like, and I don't say it lightly, I really feel like you are a great parent.
Thank you.
And knowing that relationship and how you've described it is something that I definitely aspire to with my little girl, 100%.
Thanks.
Same goes. I've got one final question for yourself, Becky, which I've got high expectations after that praise from Ryan now. If you could sum up your parenting experience in 3 words, and 3 words only, what would you say? More instinctive, the better, we say with this one.
Sum up my parenting experience in 3 words.
Never gets easy, this question, does it?
No, it doesn't.
You throw it at people and you think...
It's curveball at the end.
It is a real curveball, I think, because I like to talk in like really long, explained ways.
Might make an exception for you, Becky. Might do 3 sentences.
Three words, I want 3 words. Let's stick to it. Let's challenge you.
Privilege.
It's nice.
Connection. Privilege, connection, love.
Brilliant.
I think they're lovely.
Yeah, we've never had privilege and connection before. They're very unique. I like those. But yeah, they really sum up your parenting experience, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Your ethos, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. If people want to check out the amazing work that you are doing, or if you just wanted to reach out, say hello, where can they find you?
Instagram, Becky Farrar 1.
Becky Farrar one. Nice and simple.
One. Love that. And if you won't mind just spelling Farrar for us, because I know that's one question I asked you. I'm like, when introduced, I don't want to like posh it up.
Everyone does posh it up. Farrar. It's like Farrar.
There we go.
Farrar.
Becky with a Y.
Yeah, Becky with a Y.
Lovely.
Thank you so much for today, Becky. It's been great. Thank you for coming down. Guys, thank you as always for joining us. We'll see you next one.
See you soon.
Thank you, Becky. Honestly, that was amazing.
Appreciate
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up for a fist bump.